Hey, what's going on internet? Josh Noel from SonduckFilm. I just saw the movie Atomic Blonde, and in their trailer they had this neon light title, and I thought it was really interesting and I liked it, so it's like, you know what, let's create a tutorial on how to do it. And before we begin, let me waste your time by saying go ahead and subscribe to our channel for more After Effects videos, and drop a like if you enjoy this video, or a dislike so I can cry myself to sleep at night. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. So I already have a new composition here called Atomic Neon, and I already have a title and a background. You can Google a grunge background. I'll try to provide some project files, but I really can't because I'm using some assets that I downloaded from other areas, which are free downloads, so I'll provide those links in the description of the video. But go ahead and download a grunge background and bring it inside of After Effects and type out your title. So once you have your title in here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our character window all the way to the right over here. If you don't see the character window, go up to Window, Character, and we're going to swap out the stroke and fill. And basically we're going to get the stroke version of this title. And what we can do is go to the stroke over here where it says 1px stroke width, and we can type in like 3. So we'll have a stroke width of 3. So let's go ahead and start off with some basic sculpt to effect, stylize glow. And we're going to automatically add the glow effect at the beginning. If we want, we can increase the glow threshold just by a little bit and bring down the glow radius to maybe about 4. And let's go ahead and duplicate the glow effect. And let's go ahead and increase the glow radius to about 20 on here, and maybe increase the glow threshold by a touch as well. So off the bat, we're kind of getting this glow effect, but of course it's not perfect and we have a lot of work we got to do. So first things first, let's talk about the scene real fast. This is a very plain scene. There's really nothing, there's no contrast here. There's a little bit of contrast, but it's just not stylized. So let's go ahead and create that. So what we're going to do is go to Layer, New, Solid, and we'll call it Vignette, and we'll click OK. And make sure to bring this layer on top of our texture background. And let's go over here and let's grab the rounded rectangle tool. And let's draw out like a round rectangle, kind of like this. And let's go ahead and set this to subtract. And then let's open up mask 1, feather the heck out of this, maybe like 200. Hit T on your keyboard for opacity, and just lower the opacity of the vignette by a little bit. So now we're getting a little bit more contrast in the scene. And depending on your background, you might want to even add some contrast personally to it. So go up to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, and increase the contrast by a little bit more. And that's how you can do that, by using the curves, but I don't need to do that. And you should be good. Let's continue to optimize our glow effects. So let's go ahead and take our text layer, go up to Edit, Duplicate, and bring this new layer underneath here. And we can call it Glow 1. And let's just come over here. Let's delete one of the glows here, reset the original glow, and let's increase the radius to about like 80 or so. So a little before and after. So it adds a little bit more glow. And of course, what we can do is hit T on our keyboard for opacity and lower the opacity by a little bit. So we have a little bit more control over this glow layer. And then let's go and duplicate the layer again, bring this one underneath. And in this one, we'll just bring the radius down to about like 40 or so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the fill back on by going over to the character window and swapping fill with stroke. Go up to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, Gaussian Blur. And let's increase the blurriness to maybe about 50, somewhere around that count. And then we can hit T on our keyboard for opacity and make sure to lower this like crazy. All right, cool. So we're getting there. So let's go ahead and just duplicate the original Atomic Neon here and bring it underneath here. And let's rename it to Shadow. And let's come over here, let's just delete both of the glows so we don't need them. And let's go up to Layer, Layer Styles, and click on Drop Shadow. Where are you? There you are, Drop Shadow. You are at the top because you are number 1. That is really weird. Okay, so let's go to the opacity, set it to 100%. We'll keep the size around 5 there. And it also looking good. So basically it's just creating just a little bit of depth behind our actual text, and that's cool. And let's go back to our original text layer, and let's go up to Layer, Layer Styles, and let's also add the Drop Shadow in there as well. And we'll go to the Drop Shadow, set it to 100%, and this time we'll increase the size to like 60 or so, or maybe 50, somewhere around that count. So using 58, and we turn it on and off real fast. You can see that it kind of darkens the inner a little bit. So it's a little bit more bright on the edges, but within the center it's a little bit darker. So I think that's really cool. And it adds a little bit more contrast to what we're doing. So now we kind of have this nice neon glow going on here. We're still not done yet. We still have to optimize the scene, and we can still create a little bit of an outer glow as well. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's go up to Layer at the top, go to New, and click on Adjustment Layer. And we'll do the same thing. We'll grab like the rounded rectangle tool, and we'll just draw out a rounded rectangle just like this. And we'll go to Effect, Color Correction, and we'll throw on Brightness and Contrast. And we come here and increase the brightness, and that's crazy. But let's come over here and let's hit F on our keyboard for feather. Increase it by a little bit, maybe to like 76. Make sure to bring this layer underneath all of our original glow layers. And we can rename this layer to Outer Glow. And that's good. So just a little before and after. And of course, to me, this looks just a little bit too plain, or a little bit too even, shall I say, because you can see it's like, oh, this is perfectly even. Let's go ahead and create just a little bit of variation and randomness by grabbing the pen tool and adding a point, and we can always just adjust, a little bit of the points in here, just so it's a little bit more random, I guess. It just looks too clean to me, So we'll come over here and just mix this up. All right, and that should help just a little bit. And of course, we can always lower the opacity on this just by a touch. Okay, so we might revisit this, but this is so far looking good. So we kind of have this nice neon glow here, but we needed to optimize our scene. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So let's go ahead and create a new adjustment layer and go up to Effect, Color Correction, Curves. And this is going to be like the grade for the scene, right? So let's increase the contrast by a little bit by bringing down the point over here and bringing up the point over here. So it's kind of like an S curve. So we have a little bit more contrast in the scene here, looking good. Let's go to the red channel. Let's create like another S curve here. So let's kind of bring down the reds in the shadows a little bit and bring it up in a little bit in the highlights. And we'll go to the greens and bring down the greens in the shadow and bring it up at the top. Oop. And now we'll go to the blues and we can come here and just kind of bring this up a little bit. Okay, so we're looking good. Let's go to the project over here, and I'm going to be using some free assets from rocketstock.com. I'll provide a link in the description, but basically we're going to be using their new volumetric light pack, which is absolutely free. So go ahead and download it. I'll provide a link. So basically you get these nice volumetric and dust elements, which we'll be incorporating within this composition to quickly enhance it without doing really pretty much anything. So let's go back into our comp here, and let's bring in the subtle dust 4 and bring it on underneath our color correction. And we'll come here, we'll bring down the scale a little bit until it fits our composition like this. And we can even bring down the position value just by a little bit. And we'll come here to toggle switch the modes, and we'll set the mode to screen. And let's go to Effect, Color Correction, Tint, and we'll make it black and white, or you can change it to any color you want. So there's a little bit more, dust in the scene, so it's looking good. And let's go over to the project again, and let's bring in the single side beam. And we'll set this to screen as well and scale it down by a touch. And we'll apply the tint effect. And of course, lower the opacity on this to maybe like 50% or so. Maybe we'll go down to like 20% on it. So this has a little bit more depth in the scene without too much effort. So we're looking good. So a little before and after without this. So we get a little bit more dust, and we got like this nice little light streak here, which really pushes out the actual title here. And I might actually go back to the vignette and increase this all the way back to 100%, just add a little, so it just adds a little bit more contrast to the scene. And let's go ahead and create the actual connectors to the scene. So what we can do is grab the rectangle tool, and we'll zoom into our title here, and it's looking nice. And what we'll do is we'll set the fill here at the top to black, okay? And we will create a nice thick, little holder like this. So if we zoom out here, this is kind of what we're creating. So that looks really good. And we'll come over to the rectangle tool, and we will continue to, draw these out all the way across our title so everything is nicely connected. And it's also another way to create, a little bit of contrast. So go ahead and just be a little bit random with it. I'm kind of just being kind of consistent with it, actually, with going lower and upper. But, do what you want. So I've created these nice little holders all the way across the scene here, and what we can do is just add a drop shadow. So go to layer styles, and add a drop shadow, and make sure to go to the drop shadow settings and make sure they're all good, and that's fine. So we just added just a little bit of a nice drop shadow there as well. So I'm going to create a little bit more contrast within our title here, and to me this is still a little bit too bright within the center of our letters here. So let's go back to our shadow layer. Let's go up to Effect, Perspective, Drop Shadow. And we'll come over here, increase the softness to about 50 and set the opacity to 100%. So it does darken up a little bit. And of course, we can just select the effect, go up to Edit, duplicate, and this will be a lot darker now, and I actually like this a lot more contrast, a little bit more realistic for my taste, that will have this nice glow. So I just added a lens flare over here to the right side of our comp, and this is not necessary at all, but I added it just for extra enhancement. I'm not going to show how to do it because I used an element from rocketstock.com, which is not free, but I'll link it in the description anyway, and you could use optical flares if you have it. But I'm not going to show how to use optical flares because if you have it, you probably know how to use it. So this isn't optional, but I think I liked it a lot. So I just added the lens flare there. So we're practically done, but there's two things I want to do. I want to flicker the sign, and I also want to kind of create a 3D camera movement. So what we're going to do is make all these layers a 3D layer. And then we're going to go to Layer, New Camera. And 50mm preset is good. Click OK. Click OK. And let's grab our camera tools at the top, and let's grab the Track Z camera tool. Just zoom in by a little bit. And I'm going to set this down to like third quality real fast so we can kind of see what's happening. And we'll go over here, go to transform, and we'll set a keyframe for the position. And then we'll grab the orbit camera tool and we'll move this over just by a little bit. And then we'll kind of move this over just by a touch so we can make sure we're not seeing any unnecessary edges here. And then we'll go to the end of our animation, which in this case I'll just say 6 seconds. And we will grab the orbit camera tool, which is over here, and we'll just move it over this way. Grab the, XY camera tool and move this over by a touch so we're not seeing that unnecessary frame edge. So right now we just created this little, kind of 3D movement here with the camera. So it's pretty interesting and adds just a little bit of depth to our animation. And of course this is in third quality just because we have a lot going on here. And now just to top off this effect, I want to create a little bit of a flicker. So what we're going to do is grab our original text here. We're going to duplicate it, and we're going to bring it underneath all of our text layers, and we'll call it, frame text. Click OK. And what we're going to do is turn off all the glows. Make sure that, we'll keep the drop shadow on it, and we'll go over to our stroke color, and we'll set it to black. Great. And now what we're going to do to create this flicker is we're going to kind of turn it on and off, right? So we're going to grab all of our text layers and our outer glow here, and we can just bring this to the top here, make it easy. And what we'll do is we'll just come here and color code these. So we'll start off the composition with them turned off. So we'll go to maybe 12 frames here, and we'll have it completely turned off. So we'll come through here. You'll see that. We'll come over here, we'll see that there's the outline of our title, and then we'll come over here to where our title's fired up. Let's set the third quality again. And what we'll do is we'll go up to Edit Split Layer, and make sure you're only over by like a few frames here, and we'll just drag this over by 2 frames, bring these layers to the top, and we'll go over by 2 more frames, split these layers, bring these to the top, move these over by 2 frames, and basically you kind of get the idea of what we're doing. So we're creating a nice little flicker here, and we'll continue moving these over by 2 frames. And once we want to actually start turning this thing on, we'll start moving down to 1 frame increments. So we'll split these and bring this to the top, and we'll just do like a 1 frame at a time here. So be a little bit faster, and we're creating a little bit more of a variated animation. We'll just do 1 more and call it a day. There it is. So now we're looking good. And if you want to do just one last thing, and I'm done, this is the last thing we're doing, and we're absolutely done. Let's go ahead and add another brightness and contrast parameter and to our actual outer glow. Excuse me, they are moving a little too fast here. And we'll alt-click the stopwatch for brightness, and we'll type in wiggle, open parenthesis, 2, 50, close parenthesis. And I'll zoom in real fast. So it's wiggle, 2, 50, close parenthesis. So there's that. Type that in. And then we'll create just a little bit of a flicker on our sign. So we're basically done now. Make sure to turn on motion blur for all your layers. So turn it on over here, and a lot here, and turn it on at the top, and you should be good to go. All right, and after a quick render, this is what we have. Nice little flicker, and our sign with this volumetric dust, which is free. So we just made an awesome scene. So I hope you guys found this video insightful. If you guys did, drop a like on the video or drop a dislike so I can cry myself to sleep. Subscribe to the channel for more After Effects videos just like this, and please be sure to hit me up on my social media networks. Those links are in the description of the video. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a good day.